Yes, here we go. Oh, I forgot to ask you, so I'm going to ask you after. I'm going to have to ask you live, John. But anybody tuning in right now, you're in for a massive treat. This time, at this point in the marketplace, in the economy, in property investing and property development, this is the channel to be tuning into. So we are going to draw upon a wealth of experience, which is John Howard. He is one of the UK's most experienced property developers. And with 40 years experience in the industry, he's also got 4 books written, which I didn't ask you before. John, are we giving a book away again?
Goodness me, didn't we do that before? You're killing me. You're killing me. I expect we can give 1 or 2 away if required. If required, of course we can.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not. Hopefully, it's not going to change my life. If it is, I'm in trouble.
So yeah, I think we'll announce that. We'll put that out. So we'll give a book away. For people who, and to enter that, by the way, to get one of John's books and get your hands on some real life merchandise and another special treat that we've got. You got to share the post. You got to share this if you're watching it live. You got to tag at least 10 people in it if you're watching it or listening to it on a platform that allows you to do so. That's how you're going to get into the game. So listen, your experience stems from the sale and purchase of over 4,000 houses, apartments, and developments across the UK. From houses, hotels, large scheme developments, and one of the more recent ones was a £27 million construction with 150 apartments on the water.
I'm glad I've sold all those. Well, let me tell you a quick story, Mark. And this is how the market changes so quickly, Mark, when you're a developer. So 2 weeks ago, I had 5 flats left to sell. I had 4 under offer and 1 for sale. By the time the mini budget came along, and I went to the Conservative conference because I'm a Tory member and donor of the party, and former chairman of my local association as well. So I went along. By the time I'd spent 3 days at the conference, I came back, asked my sales director, "How are we getting on?" She said, "Well, put it this way: we've now got one under offer and 4 to sell." So that's how things can turn around that quickly with some bad news in the economy.
Yeah, and we're gonna dive straight in to what's going on in the marketplace. Seeing as you brought it up, so what kind of purchasers? Who were the purchasers? Was it investors? Is it people residential?
No, they were mainly people who were I think a couple who were downsizing. You know, we've sold 145 of these flats, so it's no worry to me that I've got 5 left, obviously. But it just shows you how the market can change. So I think 2 were downsizers, 1 was a first-time buyer, 1 was the investor. They're carrying on. They're buying still. He's a dentist, a chap I know. I don't know who the other one was. So, but what I'm saying is, you know, it just spooks people. That's what it does, Mark. Even if financially they can afford it. And the news tonight, by the way, is that the interest rate will be, you know, the interest rates, the fixed interest rates, I think are going to come down to 5% from 6% over a 5-year fix because of what the government have done today. So it's a moving target. And by the way, that President Biden in America that started yesterday spouting off about how we shouldn't have reduced the highest rate of tax from 45 to 40%. The only reason he said that is because his top rate is 38%. And he's giving us advice we shouldn't lower ours. He's got a bloody cheek, hasn't he?
So here's the thing, like, let's share some good old data from experienced property developers, because there's a lot of hearsay or like, you know, there's things being said in the marketplace and people are not even asking, like, who said that? And how did they come to that conclusion? But where did they get their data from? Like me, I don't know. I'm a bit of a stickler for like investigation. I don't know where it came from. Maybe growing up in a council estate or what. I don't know. When people present things to me, I'm like, how do you know that? But where did that come from? And like most of the time, it's like, oh, well, he said. And I'm like, okay, well, just because he said, is that it then? So I want to get some inside info from you, John, I know you're very diligent when you're looking at the market and all the moving parts. So give us an update of your view, your opinion of what's happening in property development today.
Okay. So the first thing is there's a lot of hype and a lot of worry in the market, mainly a lot of it has been brought on by the media, who forget to mention when they have someone on there who says, "Oh, my mortgage is going up £400. My fixed rate mortgage is going up £400. It's all the government's fault." What the government did is probably cost people about 0.5% in terms of their new interest rate they're going to be paying. Maybe 1%. Maybe after today it won't have cost them anything, because the mortgage market, the bank base rate was always going to go up to 4 or 5%, because at the end of the day, we've had very, very low interest rates for a very, very long time. And I remember, Mark, speaking to you before, and I think you yawned when I said that the average mortgage for people up till 15 years ago and was about 10%. And when I had my first mortgage, it was 15%. So all these low interest rates, we've lived in a very false world for a number of years. Probably 4 or 5%, which is what it's going to be going forward, is probably it's a pretty cheap rate still. The problem is people have been used to paying virtually nothing for their mortgage, nothing, 1.5% or something crazy, and they've been buying 10 Costa coffees a week or 20 cups of coffee a week. They've been going to the cinema twice a week. They've been going out for dinner 3 times a week and 3 holidays a year. Oh, and by the way, they then go away for the odd weekend. Some of that's got to change. That's not realistic. Why? Because it's not realistic, Mark. Because at the end of the day, people such low interest rates can only last for so long, and the game is up. And now we're going to a more sensible level of interest rates. And by the way, if you've got money on deposit, of course, and some of your listeners tonight and watching will have money on deposit, suddenly they'll be getting 4 or 5% interest on their money. When I had a relatively large amount of deposit last year, sadly not so much now because I bought a few deals, but I was getting 0.3% or something. It was just ridiculous. It wasn't worth having on deposit.
You mean just sitting in the bank?
Yeah, sitting in the bank. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you can call upon your memory and your knowledge, when the interest rates from the banks and people were paying 10%, what was the interest rate that people were getting when they're in the bank?
Probably about 5 or 6%, 7%.
So still hard.
Depending whether they wanted to tie it up for 2 years or 5 years or 1 year or not. But certainly you'd get 5 to 7%. And solicitors used to make more money on the money markets overnight than they did out of anything else as solicitors, because what they did, they might have at any one time hundreds of thousands, more than that, hundreds of millions of pounds on deposit from people who are about to exchange or complete transactions or have completed transactions. And their trick was to leave the money on deposit for 3 or 4 days before they paid it out to their client. And they made a fortune. And I remember back in the 90s, my business partner at the time, my business partner said, "Listen, I've just realised we're due about £90,000 in interest off this solicitor because they delayed by about 7 days every time paying us for 100 grand, 200,000, $500,000, whatever it might be." So they used to put on the money market. It used to be called, that, or still is, I'm sure, the money market. So overnight, they'd put millions and millions of pounds on the money market overnight and get a really good interest rate on it.
So that's how they were making money.
Yeah.
So I think I still want to go deeper into what's happening in the property development market.
Yes.
And anybody watching right here, by the way, if you want to get a chance of winning one of John's books, one of his 4 books that he's written on property development, getting started and all of this good stuff, then you need to share this post. Let us know in the comments when you've done it and tag at least 10 people. So there'll be a winner of John's book and some real life merchandise. It's all going to go to one person. And we've got another little treat for you as well. So make sure you spread the word and spread the love, whatever platform it is that you are watching this on. And we'll be picking a winner before the end of this show, in this episode. So, John, when you're saying things have got to change, people going on holiday, spending lots of money, you're talking because the interest rates, or the other factors as well that's kind of...
Well, I think, Mark, everything's going up, isn't it? We've had inflation isn't, and the government say the inflation's 10%, but if you if you're running a household, buying food, going out to the odd meal and so on, the inflation rate is probably over 20% in reality. You've then got the electricity bills, energy bills going up. I know the government have done a great job in subsidising it for everyone, but it's still going to cost more than it did last year. So I think everyone just has to pull the belts in a little bit, tighten the belts up, and just be a bit more sensible. But of course, what this does do in the marketplace, it causes anxiety, and it causes worry, and it makes people very cautious. So anyone who is thinking of moving may well think, well, maybe we'll leave it a year or two. Everyone becomes more negative, and that's like a rolling stone, or like a snowball. Once someone starts being negative, someone else, it just gains momentum. And that's really one of the biggest problems, is not the fact that interest rates have gone up and so on. It's the negativity that it brings, and the cautiousness that brings to people who decide. A lot of people on this show tonight watching this, they are aspirational, they want to get on, they're ambitious, but I hate to say the average person, because there's no such thing as an average person, Mark, but
there's plenty of those.
Well, okay, let's call them average. Certainly not the ones watching this, but other people. They are cautious. They worry about crossing the road in case they get run over. They worry about all sorts of things that people watching this do not worry about, because we're aspirational, we're ambitious, and we're risk takers to a point. So
it's interesting to say that, John. I just want to go into that point, because one of my next question was, like, what kind of people we're talking about who can't live like that anymore? Because one thing, when I was following the rules of the system, let's call it, working hard, get a paycheck, all that good stuff. Like if I would just be like, okay, need more money, got to work harder, got to make more commission somehow in my job or whatever, or get a new job. But now it's like, how can I be more lean in my business? How can I invest more to get more? How can I do another deal and all the rest of it? So are we only talking about one type, like let's say the average people who, by the way, average, like, just because you're average person doesn't mean that that's a negative or downside.
No, not at all. Everyone is different, and everyone has their good points and their bad points, and there's a lot of good things to be said for people who've got a steady job for 20-30 years and bring up a family and everything else. But those people normally are not risk takers, and so in the market there's some turbulence in the market or any worry in the market. If they're thinking of moving, they normally change their mind and stay put until things are level out more.
So is there turbulence in the market? There's a lot in the media, and
well, I'm hoping there's turbulence in the market, because I haven't got much to sell, Mark, and I've got funds to buy. So from my point of view, recently we've just bought two part finished distressed developments in Scotland. We've got another one in Birmingham. So these are properties, these are sites, if you like, where developers have gone bust. We come in, buy them, sort them out, sell them, whatever we do with them, normally sell them.
Recently, they've gone bust, or like
So it normally takes, Mark, about a year for the when they've gone bankrupt, for the bank to get their act together and actually sell them and try and get as much money back as they can, and that's where we step in. And buy them off it's normally a receiver, a bank appoint a receiver in order to sell the development, and that's where we step in. And at the moment, that's all I'm really buying is distressed stock, people who have got into difficulty, because those properties are half finished, 3/4 finished. I can get in and out of them quite quickly, and I'm buying them at a big discount to open market value in terms of finished completed stock. So that's at the moment, and going forward, we're getting offered more and more of this stock. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But there's opportunities.
Is it always selling? The exit on the back end is always selling?
I retain some stock, but I want to de-risk it. So I think anyone buying at the moment needs to de-risk what they're buying. So if you're looking to buy and retain for 20-25 years, you might get some discount at the moment, but you might have to put a bit more money down, and the interest rate will be more than it was a month or two ago. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't do that if it's a good deal, because over the last 25 years, property on average has gone up 5% a year. So it's I know it's average and it's gone up and down in that time, but I mean, that's a pretty good return on your money, on your capital. So if you're looking to retain long term, I don't think that's a problem. If you're looking to develop, that's a lot more of a risk, because we don't really know where the market's going to be in 2 or 3 years' time. So if you're going to develop, I think you need to de-risk it to start with by saying, look, if I can't sell them, have an out before you have an in. So if I can't sell these for what I think I should be able to sell them for, what am I going to do with them? And you need to know that you can rent them and refinance at a sensible yield. That's the most important thing. And if say you're developing 10 houses or 10 flats, you won't not sell any of them, Mark. If it's a disaster, the market gets really tough, you might sell 2 or 3 of the best ones quite easily, and the rest will struggle. But if you get 2 or 3 sold and the money paid back to the bank, then the rest of them might stand you at a 10% yield, 11, 12% yield, 9% yield. And at that level, you'll be able to refinance that and move on to the next deal. So, you're never going to have nothing sell. So in terms of, I'm trying to be positive a bit here. So always have an out before you have an in. Always know what you're going to do. If you can't sell all of them, you can only sell some of them.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of sentences I want your opinion on.
Yes, go on then.
Yeah. So the first sentence is, if you stand still in this market, it's gonna crush you. What's your opinion on that?
I think they always say if you're not going forward, you're going backwards, and that's where that saying comes from. Probably what you've just said. In my view, at the moment, unless you're a very sophisticated investor, or you just get really lucky and you find a great deal, I would be cautious for the next few months just to see where the market's going. You don't put a blindfold on and get in a car and drive it, do you? So
not more than once.
You might have done it more than once, Mark. I don't know, but
I said not more than once.
Not more than once. No, good point. Not more. So what I'm saying is, I just think we need to just. I don't think things are as bad as the media are making out. I think we just need to calm down a little bit, let things settle down, see where we get to, and there will be opportunities. That property's like a big boat. It takes a long time to stop, turn around, and go the other direction. And there's plenty of time. Everyone thinks, oh, great, market's changing, let's get in now. In my experience, and I've survived 3 property recessions, this could be a 4th, it might not be. But if I was being critical of myself over the last 3 recessions, is I jumped in a little bit soon, a little bit excited, and probably bought a bit too soon. And the market on occasions then went down further. And the saying goes, Mark, never catch a falling knife. Always wait till it bounces off the floor before you invest. If you can be patient enough to do so.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't know where the floor is.
Well, in which case you should definitely not be buying or bidding.
Yeah.
Unless, Mark, it's super cheap. If it's super cheap, it's super cheap. I'm not saying don't do it at all costs. I'm saying just be more cautious than you would otherwise be.
So here's another sentence I want your opinion on.
Go on then.
Yeah. So let's say, I make my money because I'm a property developer.
Yes.
Yeah. And I want to keep buying no matter what. What's your opinion on that?
Well, in 1992, Mark, if I'd gone on a cruise for 2 years, I'd have saved more money than I wasted trying to beat the market. Because when the market's falling and you're trading in a falling market, you've got to get in and out very, very quick. In, out. If you can get in, out within a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you're okay. If you buy a property and he's doing up, takes 6 months, the market could have dropped another 10, 15% by then, and you make no money. So for 2 years, I literally was buying a few things. I wasn't going mad, but I was buying a few things. And after the 2 years and the market started getting back up again, I looked back and thought, you know what? If I'd gone on a 2-year holiday, I'd have actually saved more money than if I carried on trading as I did. So
But
I'm either not very good in a bad market. I'm not very good in a bad market, or it's very hard to. It's very, very hard to beat a bad market.
So a couple of questions.
Yes.
Yeah. So first one, let's just make it quick fire. When you were doing this, was your primary exit selling?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I thought so. Yeah. The second thing is, you say obviously you may have lost a lot of money, or you'd have saved more money. I think you actually phrased it. But what about the experience you got in that 2 years? Would you trade that?
Well, I quite liked a two-year holiday with I wasn't married at the time, with some beautiful woman on a Caribbean island for a couple of years or something. Mark, as you, I'd have traded that for what I did. Yes. And perhaps a nice cruise, or I'm sounding old now saying a cruise, aren't I? Probably, but I haven't been on a cruise, by the way. Or you know, I could have bought a classic car, or travel around the world for 2 years. Lots of things. I could have had perhaps more than one lady with me to travel around. I could have perhaps dropped one off in Australia and picked another one up in Portugal or Spain, or who knows. But instead of that, I was battling away trying to make money out of property, which is, you know, it's very hard to do when the market's dropping.
So I want to ask you again, the experience you got in that 2 years, would you trade it now, knowing now like what you picked up and what you learned in that time period?
Well, I didn't lose a huge amount of money. I just felt that actually I just trod water for 2 years, or perhaps slightly worse than tread water for 2 years. I suppose I would have. I suppose, Mark, to be fair, I was a lot younger than I am now. Obviously, I'd made quite a lot of money in the 80s and early 90s. And of course, you have an entourage. You know, you build up an entourage. You got the house, you got the horses, you got all the country estate, whatever it might be, you bought. So you feel like you've got to keep going. But actually, sometimes the best thing is not to keep going. Having said that, getting back to your original question, yeah, it was probably all right.
Yeah, I wanted to hear like your opinion on it, because you know there's some times where I've done a lot of stuff in my life and I look like, I think, would I go and do that again? I'm thinking, wow, you know, it's a tough gig, but it makes me who I am. So I don't know if you know, but like I embarked on this new thing. 10 weeks I've been playing tennis. Yeah, only 10 weeks, and I want to go win Wimbledon next year. That's my aim.
Yeah.
Oh wow! First person.
Good luck with that. People have been training for many years. I know a bit about tennis because I go down to Eastbourne every year to watch the tournament at Eastbourne.
Yeah, but you're the first person that didn't laugh when I said it, so that's interesting.
Well, I don't wish to be negative, and I believe in positive thinking. Unless you're 6'4" and you've been injured for 2 years, but before that you were a professional tennis player, I think, with all due respect, your chances are about 10 million to 1.
Good, I'll take that.
Take that.
I'll take
it. 20 million. Might be 20 million to 1, Mark. I haven't thought of it. You are talking about the. I've actually played at Wimbledon in a junior tournament many years ago, which was like an Eastern region thing. So you're not talking about just playing at Wimbledon. You're talking about playing at the championship, are you?
I'm talking about winning Wimbledon.
Winning the what? The £2 million first prize.
It's $2.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I made room in my bank account for that.
Yeah, well, that would be good, wouldn't it? And who's your coach, by the way?
Yeah, I got a coach. His name's John, funny enough.
Yeah, well, it's a great name. Great name. My tennis coach is called Ollie, and he was at 14, 15 was sort of in the top few in the UK, but
here's my point.
Didn't make it.
Here's my point about it, right? I just entered 2 tournaments. I've been playing 10 weeks. And I'm playing against people who've been playing 10 years, like you said,
and longer. I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, probably longer. I didn't speak to everyone though. One of the tournaments weren't even allowed to speak to the people. Yeah, weirdly enough. No. And anyway, so 5 games in total I played. I lost all 5 games. I tell you something, John. I never. You kind of know me a little bit. I'm a competitive guy, not to like beat others down, but because I'm just, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I want to win.
Ambitious, yeah.
And I never enjoyed losing so much. You know, and 3 of those 5 games, I think if I play my best, I mean, talking from a 10-week player here, if I play my best tennis, I reckon I could beat 3 of them. You know what? I'm glad I didn't, because if I would have beat them, I wouldn't have been as determined as I am to get back on the court. I got another tournament coming this Sunday, and I learned so much about my feet, my swing, my positioning, my shot.
The biggest thing I think with tennis, and we're getting off the subject, of course, but tennis, and I love tennis, is serving. The serving is the hardest part of tennis, without question. The serve, in my view, and you know, you're going to need to serve to win Wimbledon at about 125 miles an hour, and your second serve needs to be about 110 miles an hour with a big slice on it.
We won't be taking won't be doing any second serves, John.
I think you have to be in the top. Well, you have to be in the top 100 in the UK, in the world to get into Wimbledon.
No, that's not true. There's 128 places. 104 of them are seeded. There is 60 through qualification and 8 wild cards.
There is 8 wild cards, but the wild cards are for British players, so you qualify for that, I'm sure. Fantastic. That's the entry. Obviously, the wild card.
And I'm left-handed. They like left-handed players playing at Wimbledon.
They like left-handed players, and grass gives you more of an advantage, I think, than on hard courts. So your chances have gone down from 20 million to about 19 point something million. But if you want to have a bet on it, I'll be glad to have a bet with you, not wishing to be difficult. And if you get there, I'll be there supporting you.
Listen, it's a journey and a half already. But my point of bringing this up is that some people, they perceive that this hard time or this 2-year time period that John Howard had, oh my God, I wouldn't have it, but it's the best learnings that you'll ever have. So my opinion is, if people want to get started, you know, because here's the thing, you know, I work with a lot of people who have been in property for a long time, but also people who are just getting started. And you know what? The ones who are just getting started, these are the best students right now. Why? Because they don't know anything about lower bills. They don't know anything about lower costs. They got none of this other conditioning that's kind of stopping them. They're working their numbers out and have to be lean straight away.
Yeah.
Other people have enjoyed this luxury, John, of like, wow, I've got so much space. I can totally mess up and still make some money.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also say that learning the job in a tough market, you learn more in a tough market than you do. You know, it's like anything. Anything that's easy, you learn very little. Anything that's tough, you learn a lot more. And you learn far more in this market than you will for the last 10 years. Seriously, 8 years, 10 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I think anybody right now who has to get, you know, because you know the strategy everyone's been asking in our community, they're asking, oh, what is it you do? Like, what are we supposed to do? And I'm like, get lean. You know, you got to get lean right now. All this willy-nilly, you know, don't know what my P&L is, don't know what this is or that. That's going to kill you if you don't know what any of that stuff is. And we were talking just before in a green room. You said, you want me to be positive or negative? That's what you asked me. I said, just tell the truth. And the truth is that, like, it's going to come down to money management. Yeah, there's things that can change in the market, but if you're managing your money correctly, and if you're doing your due diligence, which is part of the money management, then, you know, you're going to, like, you've just bought yourself a surfboard for when the waves come.
Well, what I would say is that I've made more money coming out of the recession, a property recession, than at any other time in my career, because you're buying at low discounted prices, and no one else has got the balls to do it and catch on. So the way, and how do you know when the market's hit the bottom and is coming back up again? The auctions are the best barometer for that. So normally with auctions, on average, they sell about 75%. They call it clearance rate. So they sell about 75% of what goes into the auction. When the market gets tough, that goes down to about 50%. So once that starts to come up from 50%, you know the market's improving, and you know the market's improving before everyone else, because the rest of the market only catches up with the auction market after 6 or 9 months normally, because the auction market is the trade market. So everyone should be starting to look at auctions and analyze what's going on at the moment, not jumping in and buying quite yet probably, but analyzing it and just seeing where the bargains are. Because when people need to sell quick, fast, or the banks, what do? They put it in an auction.
But, you know, like when it comes to the investment market, I'm still undecided, because sometimes like there's a lag time, right? So like when you speak to agents and all of a sudden a piece of news comes out that, oh, you know, September was the lowest, rate of selling houses and all that stuff. Now all of a sudden everybody thinks that's gospel. Yeah, and it's like, oh wow, like it's been like you say, it's all taken from averages. And
it's taken from averages, and and the UK is a micro market. You might be in an area in 2008, the recession 2008 2009. We still got them 2 big blocks in flats in Brighton, and Brighton didn't go down in 2009 at all. Yet other parts of the country went down 30%. So it depends where you are, and some of that is luck. To be fair, it's not all because I read the market, this, that, and the other. Well, you might have done, but on the whole, it's luck. It was luck that we had those flats in Brighton, and the market didn't go down in Brighton. It wasn't us thinking, when we bought them in 1992, in 20 years' time plus, or 15 years' time, do I think the market's going to go down in Brighton? I mean, it's bullshit, isn't it? Yeah. So, just you can be lucky in a downturn, a property market downturn, or you can be unlucky. And if you're halfway through a development, by the way, you are vulnerable because build costs will probably go up in that time. In the time that you're building it, at the moment especially, your builder will probably take longer to do it. And in the past, like you've said, Mark, people have got out of jail because of inflation, property inflation, because the time you finished it, oh, that's handy. I know we took a year longer, but guess what? The market's gone up, so we're okay. That isn't going to happen in the next 2 years. So that's why, like you said, rightly so, Mark, you need to be on your numbers. You can't afford to be slack with numbers or what it's going to cost to do, or more importantly than all those things always, how long it's going to take you to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. George is asking a question here. He's saying,
yes, George, what's your question, George?
He's saying, John, so you think that a good deal is still a deal in a recession? How would you safeguard this against eventual price drop? Yeah, I've got something interesting to say. I want to hear what you got to say, but I've got something.
Well, I think you basically, George, you price that into what you're buying. So I mean, if you're buying, if you think there's a really good deal, a really good deal today would have been a fantastic deal a month ago, 2 months ago, but it doesn't mean it's not a bad deal today. It just means you might make a little bit less. But the other thing to remember is that if you think the market's going to drop 10-15%, which is what I think it might do in certain areas, then just build that into what you're what you're offering. If you're buying a property to refurbish and sell again, or refurbish and let, just bear in mind that it's probably worth 10% in a year's time less than it is today, or less than it was 3 months ago. So just anticipate the issues, and if it still works on that level, then do it.
Yeah, but I think when it comes to price drops, and I'm really interested to get your opinion on this, John, is like, I have this saying, or this thing I go by.
You have a few sayings, you do, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. But this one, this rule of thumb I have is like,
yes.
when you flip in, a house is worth as much as somebody's going to pay for it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, but when I'm refinancing, a revaluation is an opinion that's backed up by data and information.
Yes.
And people who, like you say, are midway through a development that they want to sell, buying prices when it's finished, who knows where it's going to be? Is it going to be up? Is it going to be down? But on a refinance, and you'll know this, John, and I've got it from working with banks. You see, when the bank knows that your exit is a refinance or one of the exits, they'll only have entered into that if they know that the rental is going to cover the payments plus more, so that you can do the refinance. So I would say, and my argument and my strategy is what I'm doing is, if I'm any flip that I'm doing must work on that refinance.
Absolutely.
The cash flow after refinance. There's only two. I mean, there's other numbers, but the two main numbers I'm looking for on an output is what I call the money in, money out, meaning like if what money is in, what's coming out, and the cash flow after refinance.
Yes.
Based off those two numbers, that's where I decide whether I'm going for the deal or not. And if the cash flow after refinance gives me, the profit and more, whatever my threshold is, depending on the size of the project, then I know that the bank will lend me the money, and I know the bank will give me the refinance because they've got to get their original money back.
Yeah, you're really saying what I said earlier, Mark, which is, always have an out before you have an in. So if you can't sell it and get the capital out, the long as it works on a refinance. And the good thing about refinance, of course, is one, you don't pay any tax on a refinance. And by the way, if I won't say it too loudly, but if I was the Chancellor of the Exchequer today, I'd be looking at taxing everybody that takes a refinance, because a refinance is really the same as selling.
Yeah, but
you don't get as much out, but the money you take out of the deal is tax free.
But I can't see tax in that, John, because that's how they print money when they lend people money.
I'm not saying they will do, but if I was the Chancellor, I'd certainly look at it. They won't do, so don't worry, everyone, probably. But and I don't know the Chancellor. I did sit next to that Kwasi at a dinner a few months ago, and I wasn't, when he was Energy Minister, and I wasn't too impressed with him then. So he didn't do a great job as Energy Minister. So when I heard he was going to be Chancellor, and I saw him last week at the conference as well, I was very unimpressed. Anyway, he's gone, sacked, gone.
So guys, any more quick fire questions? And your last chance to share this, if you want to be in a chance for winning one of John's books, one of 4 books that he's written, and some real life merchandise, and also another little goodie prize that we got as well. So you let us know when you've shared it, and you need to tag 10 people. We're going to pick someone before we wrap this up. Also, if there's any quick fire questions that you've got for John while we're here live, then let us know, because we'll have to be quick fire before we start wrapping it up. But let's kind of get a summary, John, and let's kind of see and just provide people with something that they can go and do their due diligence on, do their research on, or like more accurately, really, is start training. Watching videos, reading books, great insight. You got to do that. But at the end of the day, what I look at that as that's like your gym induction. You're not going to get strong because your trainer took you to the gym and says, oh, that machine, does that. And you just jump on the machine, you pull it like this. But I'm not strong because he told me how to do it. I get strong because I get on the machine. Yeah, that's why I was asking you earlier, John, like, okay, that 2 years, how strong did you get? Because it was tough. Because I
think you mentally get stronger because you're taking all the knocks. It's a bit like it's a bit like you doing your tennis training, and they're going out and playing and thinking while you're training, you think, oh well, I'm hitting these balls nicely. I'm not, but you're not under any pressure, are you? When you go out and actually do it for real in front of a few thousand people, as you will be at Wimbledon. That's a very different, isn't it, Mark? The pressure. It's all about pressure.
I love pressure.
Pressure, by the way, pressure is a privilege in my view. If you haven't got pressure, on the whole, it's because you're not getting on, or you're not doing this, that, and the other. Of course, some people sadly have different sorts of pressure, and I understand that. So what I would
though as well, you said mentally stronger, right?
Mentally stronger, yeah.
You said mentally.
You've got to be mentally strong. You've got to be mentally strong. What I would say, for instance, you go on my YouTube. My YouTube it's full of good, sensible advice as to how and what to do, which is all very well, but unless you actually get off your backside and do something, what good is it? You might as well watch Coronation Street. So you need to get off your backside and do it. And actually, every time you analyze a deal, you're learning something. You're not having to buy it; it's free. You're learning, and if you do that and work with someone like Mark or myself or whatever as well, then certainly you can really gain a lot of experience without actually having to commit to a deal. There's a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge you can gain by doing those two things: analyzing deals, seeing if they work or not, work out why they're not working. That's cost you nothing, and combine that with some good education and so on, and some support and help, which obviously Mark can give you, and he can kick your ass and make you aspirational and ambitious, which is what it's about.
Because you've got to do the deal. By the way, you talk about pressure and the pace of the game. I've been coaching for 10 weeks. First tournament was this Saturday. First game, my opponent, the game starts at 2:00. My guy turns up at 1:57. I've been there since 1:00, like warming up.
Of course you have. You've been stretching and warming up.
Yeah. I have to. I'm a veteran. Yeah. So anyway, we pull up, and he won the toss, and he said, "I'll serve first." And I'm standing there like on my toes, quick feet, and he served, and I was like, "What happened?" so quick, just a different pace. And if I don't get on the pitch, that's never going to happen. So you talk about like, you got to learn and all the rest of it. Learn, fine. But like I say, you got to work out the money in, money out. You got to learn cash flow to refinance, but then get yourself into a deal. That's how you got. That's the only way you're really going to learn.
You learn a lot more by doing it than anything else. I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do with the right parameters. Right, we've got to really quick fire some of these things. So let's have a look at these. Yeah, so I'm going to bring it up so you can see it as well. Yeah, what are the learnings you have had from the worst deal you've ever made?
Not to do it again.
I think what my worst one today is like we got to the end of the job, we were just about to sell it. They asked for building control sign off. We went to get it from the builder, and he said, "I thought you were doing that."
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Retrospective, you can get retrospective, and 10-year warranty is the other thing. Of course, you've got to be careful of these days. You need 10-year warranty.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Then we got something here from Yolande. Yeah. What are the key points as markers you look to consider investing in a deal, especially now?
I think the good thing about now and the future yield to is that you don't need to take any risks, or the risks you take don't need to be as great as the risks they were last year, because there's going to be less competition. And you won't have to take the chances you are having to take to make some money, because there'll be less competition. What you'll be paying for developments will be less, and deals will be less. So actually, going forward, that's a very positive thing, because I bought very little in the last 2 years because the market's been too hot.
For you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's another one. It's interesting. Will build costs drop and where?
I'm
not banking on it.
I'm not banking on it, but what I would say, they have come down a little bit. Timber's come down a little bit, plasterboard's come down a little bit. Whether when the war in Ukraine finally finishes, that will help things come down even more. I don't know, but my experience of materials is that I've never seen them come down very much. So I would assume they're going to stay where they are for the next 6-9 months. If you're doing a development, I wouldn't bank on them coming down. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one. I think it's put in 2 sections.
Do you think Jeremy Hunt can stabilise the housing market? Well, I'm not a great fan of Jeremy Hunt. I've only met him a couple of times, but he was a bright man. He sold his business for £15 million, so he's no fool. He was the minister for NHS for 8 years, and I didn't think he did a great job there. He's very respected in the party, and he's very calm and a very bright man. So I would think he's done us a big favour today, actually, because although he's gone back on everything that Kwasi said he was going to do, the one thing he's kept is stamp duty relief. So that's the good news. He's kept the stamp duty. So
and increase some thresholds on that, right?
Yeah, so he's increased the thresholds, and he's retained that. And he hasn't taken that one away. He's taken everything else away that was promised, just about, but he hasn't taken that away. So I think what he has done today, he's stabilising the interest rates more, and I think that in itself will stabilise the property market a little bit. Yeah.
Awesome, very good. And Richard Fay is asking, what's your YouTube channel? Is it John Howard? Or?
John Howard Property, I think. I don't actually know, Mark, but someone else does it for me. But I think it's John Howard Property. You'll have to check, Mark, for me. I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah,
that's my big sales pitch, and I didn't even get it right.
Yeah,
I think it's John Howard Property, something like that. If you put that in, I'm sure it'll come up.
Put those 3 words into the YouTube search engine. I think there's a
Thank you.
Can you quickly explain again when the market is at its lowest when you look at auctions?
Yes. So if you analyze the auction market, and you can get data from a number of places now, but if you analyze the sell rates of the auctions, and you'll notice that in the summer the sell rate for many auctions was like 80%. They sold 80%. But what you'll find is in the next 6 months, that will go down from 80% probably to 50, 60%, depending what. And when you see that start going up again, then that's the time to start jumping in and being braver than you've been up to now. So there's good. You hear people talking about good debt and bad debt. At the moment, I'd be cautious that most debt isn't good because its interest rates are going up. And property prices are leveling or going down. But when you know that the property prices are going back up again, then you can be a bit more ballsy with your debt. You can borrow more than perhaps you wanted to at the moment, because you know that everything's on the up, and there's benefits in buying more property and doing more deals. And you'll notice that throughout the auctions. So the auction is the barometer for the rest of the property market.
Very good. And then we got George again. What advice would you give someone just starting property in this market? What pathway to engage in?
Well, what I would say, it is a great time to start investing in property. Great time, and I don't mean jump in tomorrow and start buying loads of property. I'm saying get involved, get some education, get some advice. Don't be in a hurry, but like I said, I've made more money coming out of a property recession than at any time in my career. So it's a really good time to start getting involved, immerse yourself, look on people's YouTube, take some education with Mark and so on, and then you can decide what you want to do, because there's lots of ways of making money out of property, but you have to have an interest in that. And it might be developing it might be refurbishing cottages, it might be doing up terrace house, it might be serviced accommodation that I know not a lot about. All sorts of things. It could be whatever suits you. You must have an interest in it. That's the most important thing.
So what if you make money and your interest is money? Is that okay?
If your interest is money, that's absolutely fine. But you have to decide how you're going to make it and what's best for you. If you've got an interest in developing period properties and you enjoy doing that, then and you have a specialism. You can make more money out of a specialism than someone else who's just doing it because they want to make money.
Unless they're really connected with what they're doing with the money.
Well, I've been accused on a few occasions by journalists and people saying, well, actually, John, you've got no real interest in property. You've got no heart in property. All you want to do is make money. And you've got no real interest in creating something and making something, improving something, which is probably true in a way. I mean, if I can buy and sell a property in a day and make a profit, I will do.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, like I like the vehicle of property, but what I love the most is the people. I've created hundreds of jobs.
Yes, exactly.
And I love
I agree with you.
I love building my
that job we just finished. Well, I finished last year in the wine rack, 26 the big development we just finished a while ago. 26 million. There was 220 people on that site at any one time. So indirectly we're employing people. Scotland, I've got 2 jobs starting in Scotland. One started today, one starting on the 1st of November. Both just over £1 million jobs. So, again, you're putting money into the Scottish economy. That's what it's about. And that's why the government are supporting the stamp duty, because they know that for everyone that buys a property, they spend 5% of the value of that property improving it, buying curtains, buying carpets, putting a new kitchen in, and so on. So that's why property is so important to the government.
Yeah, I think it is going to come around, just riding the wave. But like music to my ears, John, when you said now's the best time to get in. This is where you're going to build the best muscle. Because you've got to be lean. And I'm a business guy, so I've always the language of business. Numbers is the language of business. From my experience, it could be different for other people. So I've always been like the cautious one. I want to make sure the numbers works. I always do a best case and worst case. If I can handle the worst case, I press
absolutely. If you can live with the worst case, crack on.
Yeah, just go. Because if I left it up to my emotions to make the decision, I wouldn't do anything, John. Or I'd be too crazy and just do everything. It depends how I feel.
I would say you don't want to be buying through the heart. You need to be buying through the head.
Formulas, always formulas, no feelings. Yeah. Look what happens when you buy a residential house. Oh my God, your budget starts out at one thing. It's nearly double by the time you finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even your feelings either. Yeah, so you can be influenced by others too. So
Absolutely.
so let's give away some of the stuff, John, and then we're going to wrap up. So
Okay.
yeah, first of all, by the way, anyone who does want to get started in property, check this link out. We can go ahead there. John, you're going to pick a number in a minute when we've got the people here. So we got, how many we got? We got 1, we got 2. Oh, there we go. 1 and 2. Here we go. Here we go. So you're going to pick. Oh, let me do that. Okay. Pick a 1 or a 2.
Number 1.
Number 1 is, I'm just going to bring up the name, Dawn Douglas.
Well done, Dawn. Congratulations, Dawn.
Yes, Dawn. So you can send your address over to me. So,
I'm not going to send you 1 book, Dawn. I'm going to send you 4 books. I'm going to send you 1 of each.
wow, look at that.
And everyone else can buy them on Amazon.
I tell you what, that's worth, John. That's worth a round of applause.
Very good. You like that, don't you?
Not as much as you. Yeah, so there you go, Dawn.
No problem, Dawn.
Send me your address, Dawn, and I'll forward it on to John.
Yeah, thank you.
John, his integrity is very high. In fact, last time, John was chasing me down for the person's address.
I think I was. Yeah, you're a bit slow on that. You took 24 hours, so I'm a bit quicker than that.
Yeah, so very good. And you're going to get to select some whatever you want from the Real Life store as well. So awesome. Well done to you, Dawn. So what we like to do, John, we like to finish off with 2 questions.
I remember them from last time. Very difficult questions, I remember. I hope they're easier this time.
Well, it is first question. Yeah, you have got a microphone right now.
Yes.
And it translates into every language on this planet. What is your 30-second message?
That is such a difficult. Why do you have to do this every time to me? I come on your show. So I would say at the moment, I would say, don't listen to all the hype. Be cautious, be careful, do all your figures, and assume a 10% drop in the value within the next 12 months and work on that basis. But if the deal's good, get on and do it.
We like that, John. We like that. So here's the big one.
No, not another one. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a saying in our community.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do. I remember it somewhere. If I can remember it, I'll say it, but you might need to remind me.
And the saying goes like this. No matter what, we cannot let the people forget that they must do the right thing for the right reason. Now, why is that?
The right thing for the right reasons. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because if you don't, you'll get it wrong.
I love it. Yeah, we're going to add you to the reel. That's getting added to the reel. In fact,
Good.
You know what, John? You should join us at the Real Life Awards. I've got a seat at my table for you. Yeah, it's on the 10th.
When is it?
It's on the 10th of December.
10th of December. Where is it?
Book that in your diary. It's at some De Vere hotel near Nottingham somewhere. Let me know you can do the date, and
I can do the date. I'll definitely come as your guest. Do I get? I need a room for the night as well, of course.
I'm sure you can.
Sorry.
I'm sure you can sort that out.
Oh, you're not including the room.
You're not the speaker presenting the awards.
Well, you can book me if you want.
Actually,
if I'm available.
Oh, in fact, maybe you've got 1 or 2 companies that might want to sponsor 1 or 2 of the awards. You could do that as well. We'll get your company engraved.
This started out with me being invited on your table with a free evening and a free room. It's now turned into me sponsoring an event and not
it's a free room
and having to speak, which I'll be happy to do for you, obviously, Mark, as you know.
You do it for the people, John. Yeah, I know.
I'm very happy. I'm happy. Well, I think we all have to work together and help each other, and I think that's if you can do that, then and have some fun at the same time. That's great.
Absolutely, and be surrounded by awesome champions as well that are, going for it in this whatever market. So, John, I want to just tell you that so you can finish the reel off. You got to remember, you got to do the right thing for the right reason, because it's the only way you discover your true potential. Are you ready?
Am I ready for what?
I'm going to ask you the question again, so you can say the answer, which is.
Well, I thought my first answer was rather good.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I want to add it to the reel.
Oh, good. I've done that, am I?
Yeah, but now you need to say it's the only way to discover your true potential.
It's the only way to discover your true potential.
Okay, we'll just edit it in and we'll make it look awesome.
Thank you very much.
But thank you, John. Always a pleasure.
Great to see you, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully on the 10th of December, and if not, probably on another show somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
In the next week, month or two, no doubt, which you'll be invited onto, I'm sure, like I will.
Yeah, well, amazing content once again. And thank you, everybody, for watching and sticking with us through this turbulent time in the media, because it's not the market. And until next time, like John said, you've got to do the right thing for the right reason.